Hey everyone, today we're doing a classic, Draw My Life. But this is going to be a special edition looking at the US economy over the years, particularly recessions. So, to start, what is a recession? A recession is a short-term economic downturn where we see drops in GDP growth and increases in unemployment. Recessions can be caused by two things: declines in aggregate demand or declines in aggregate supply. Generally, we see more severe recessions more often caused by aggregate demand, while declines in aggregate supply tend to result in short-term recessions. However, if left untreated, the effects of short-term aggregate supply declining can snowball into larger recessions. So, now that we know about recessions, let's take a look at downturns we've experienced in the past. The first and most infamous is the Great Depression, which lasted from 1929 to 1933. It was caused by a decline in aggregate demand. This large dip in aggregate demand happened for a few reasons, one being a stock market crash on October 24, 1929. Stocks fell by almost 90% from 1929 to 1932. Due to the crash, people were not hopeful for the future of their wealth and spent less of their money. Another reason was a reduction of the money supply in 1929, which caused panic and led over 9,000 banks to fail. Additionally, there were higher taxes and a trade war set off by tariffs. The Great Depression is, by far, the most impactful recession that the United States has experienced. The economy retracted 30% from 1929 to 1933, and the unemployment grew from 2.2% in 1930 to a whopping 25% in 1933. It took 7 full years for the GDP to recover, and unemployment didn't recover for the rest of the century. This is easily the worst recession in American history. The next recession we'll be looking at is the Great Recession, which lasted from December 2007 to June 2009, and it was the longest recession we have had since the Second World War. At first, economists believed it to be caused by aggregate demand declining, similarly to the Great Depression, but the aggregate supply also dipped during this time. Real estate values dropped heavily in 2007, and real estate is often the largest portion of wealth. Additionally, stocks lost a full third of their value in 2008. Because of these events, people were concerned about the state of the economy, and spending fell. Aggregate supply fell due to real estate values falling from securitization, which led to the loanable funds market experiencing a systemic breakdown. The economy shrank by 4.3% during the Great Recession, and unemployment went from 5% in December 2007 to 10% in June 2009, a major jump, especially for how short the time period was. The final and most recent recession we'll look at occurred during and because of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. This is a classic supply shock. Because of restrictions on imports and work, there was a sudden decline in supply. Additionally, we saw a sharp rise in unemployment because not every job could support a work-from-home structure. However, the economy rebounded relatively quickly, as once the pandemic restrictions were lifted, people were eager to funnel their money back into the economy. So, those are 3 of some of the major economic recessions the U.S. has experienced in the past 100 years. I hope you enjoyed this Draw My Life giving a quick recap.